You know, we spend so much time online these days, Facebook, Instagram, checking out the latest UFC fight results. But what lies beneath the surface? What's going on in the deepest corners of the internet? It's like this rabbit hole, man, the dark web. It's this mysterious place full of crazy stories and a whole lot of speculation. Some people say it's a haven for criminals, a digital Wild West where anything goes. Others say it's a vital tool for privacy and free speech in an increasingly surveilled world. So, what's the deal with the dark web? Is it as dangerous as they say? That's what we're going to dive into today. Beyond the sites we know and use every day, there exists a hidden world. Welcome to the dark web. Have you ever wondered what lies beyond the reach of Google? What secrets and hidden realms exist in the vast expanse of the internet that we don't see every day? The internet we use daily is just the tip of the iceberg. This visible part is known as the surface web. Beneath the surface lies a vast and often misunderstood realm known as the dark web. This hidden part of the internet is shrouded in mystery and intrigue. To understand the dark web, we must first understand the structure of the internet as a whole. The internet is a complex and multi-layered entity. The internet can be visualized as having 3 layers. Each layer serves a different purpose and contains different types of content. The first layer, the surface web, is what most people are familiar with. It's the part of the internet that is easily accessible and indexed by search engines. It includes websites that are indexed by search engines and easily accessible. This is where we find our daily news, social media, and online shopping. Think of popular news websites, social media platforms, and online stores. These are all part of the surface web. The second layer is the deep web. This layer is much larger than the surface web and contains a vast amount of information. This layer encompasses content that is not indexed by standard search engines. It includes databases, cloud storage, and anything behind a login or paywall. This is where your private information resides. Your online banking portal and private email inbox reside in the deep web. These are secure areas that require authentication to access. The third and deepest layer is the dark web. This is the most hidden part of the internet and is not accessible through standard web browsers. It is a subset of the deep web that is intentionally hidden and requires specific software like Tor to access. It's all about anonymity. Imagine trying to have a conversation in a crowded room, but you're whispering to the person next to you through a long winding tube. That's kind of how Tor works. It bounces your communication through a bunch of different servers, making it almost impossible to trace back to you. This anonymity, it's a double-edged sword, man. On the one hand, it can be a powerful tool for people living under oppressive regimes, whistleblowers, journalists, folks who need to communicate without being tracked. But on the other hand, let's just say it attracts a different crowd.
Okay, so how does this whole Tor thing actually work? Imagine you're sending a postcard, but instead of writing your address directly on it, you put it in an envelope addressed to a friend. Then your friend puts that envelope inside another envelope addressed to another friend, and so on, like a chain. Eventually, the last person receives it, opens all the envelopes, and finds your postcard inside. That's kind of how Tor works, but with layers of encryption on top. It's like wrapping your message in a bunch of different boxes, each one locked with a key that only the next person in the chain has. This makes it super hard for anyone to intercept the message and figure out where it came from or where it's going. And get this, these relay points, the computers that pass your data along, they're run by volunteers all over the world. It's like a decentralized network, man, no central authority controlling it. And that's what makes it so resilient. You can't just shut it down by taking out one server.
Now let's get something straight, man. The dark web isn't just some digital playground for criminals. It serves a purpose, a legitimate one. Think about it. In a world where governments and corporations are constantly watching our every move, the dark web offers a way to communicate and share information anonymously. It's like a digital safe house for people who need to stay hidden for their own safety. Journalists use it to protect their sources. Activists use it to organize protests without fear of reprisal. But, and this is a big but, this anonymity also makes it the perfect place for illegal activities. And let's be real, that's what it's mostly known for. It's like this digital underbelly where you can buy anything, drugs, weapons, stolen credit card information, you name it. It's like a real-life cyberpunk movie, man.
Chapter 4, the infamous marketplaces. Now, you've probably heard stories about these crazy online marketplaces where you can buy anything, right? Well, a lot of that was happening on the dark web, places like Silk Road, man. It was like the Amazon of the dark web, this massive online marketplace where you could buy anything, and I mean anything anonymously. It was wild, man. And it wasn't just Silk Road. There were others like Alpha Bay, Hansa Market, all these platforms popping up, facilitating all sorts of illegal trade. It was like a game of whack-a-mole. One gets taken down, another one pops up. But here's the thing, man. Just because it's happening in this digital world doesn't mean there aren't real-world consequences. These marketplaces were making millions, billions even, and the authorities were not happy about it. So they started cracking down, infiltrating these sites, shutting them down.
Chapter 5. Navigating the Cyber Abyss. We've got to talk about the risks, man. Because let me tell you, the dark web is a dangerous place if you don't know what you're doing. First off, cybercrime. It's rampant. Hackers, scammers, identity thieves, they're all lurking in the shadows, just waiting for someone to slip up. One wrong click, one download from a shady site, and you could be looking at some serious damage. And it's not just about stealing your credit card information, man. We're talking about malware, ransomware, stuff that can completely hijack your computer, steal your data, even spy on you through your webcam. It's like walking through a minefield blindfolded.
Chapter 6. Separating Fact from Fiction. There's a lot of misinformation out there about the dark web, man. People hear these crazy stories and they think it's this mythical place where everything's illegal and everyone's a criminal mastermind. But it's not that simple. Like, some people think just accessing the dark web is illegal. That's not true. It's like using a VPN, man. It's just a tool. It's what you do with it that matters. Another myth, that it's impossible to trace anyone on the dark web. That's not entirely true either. Law enforcement agencies are getting better at it all the time. Remember those marketplaces we talked about? A lot of them got busted because someone slipped up, got cocky.
So we've talked about the good, the bad, and the ugly of the dark web. But what does it all mean, man? What's its impact on society as a whole? It's a tough question, a real ethical dilemma. On the one hand, you've got the argument for privacy and freedom of speech. In a world where governments and corporations are constantly collecting our data, monitoring our online activity, the dark web offers a way to fight back, to reclaim some of that anonymity that we're losing. And let's not forget about the people who rely on the dark web for their safety, whistleblowers, journalists, activists living under oppressive regimes. For them, it's a lifeline, a way to communicate and share information without putting themselves at risk.
Now I know what you're thinking. This all sounds crazy, Joe. How do I even get to this dark web? Well, I'm not recommending it, but if you're curious, the most common way is through a browser called Tor. It's free to download, relatively easy to use. But let me be clear, man, I'm not advising you to go poking around the dark web. It's like walking into a dangerous neighborhood. You need to be aware of the risks. First and foremost, protect yourself. Use a strong VPN on top of Tor to add an extra layer of encryption. Don't give out any personal information, ever. Don't download anything unless you absolutely trust the source. And most importantly, man, use your common sense.
You know, we've been talking about the dark web in this abstract sense, but the truth is, it's not just some abstract concept. It has real-world consequences, man. There are stories out there, real stories, of people whose lives have been impacted by this digital underbelly. Take the story of this one guy, let's call him John. John was a regular dude, worked a 9 to 5, had a family, the whole 9 yards. One day he starts noticing weird charges on his credit card. Small amounts at first, then bigger and bigger. Turns out, his identity had been stolen and sold on the dark web.
So we've talked about the risks, the myths, the real-life consequences of the dark web. Now let's talk about how to stay safe in this crazy digital world. First off, strong passwords, man. I know it sounds basic, but you wouldn't believe how many people are still using password 123 or their dog's name. Use a password manager if you have to. Just make sure those passwords are long, complex, and unique for each account. Next up, two-factor authentication. This is a no-brainer, folks. It adds an extra layer of security to your accounts by requiring a unique code from your phone or email in addition to your password. And for the love of God, be careful what you click on. Phishing scams are everywhere, man. Don't open emails from unknown senders, don't click on suspicious links, and always double-check the URL before you enter any personal information. It's like you wouldn't just walk into a stranger's van and tell them your life story, would you? Same rules apply online.
So there you have it, the dark web. It's a weird place, man, full of contradictions. It's a place where freedom and danger collide, where the best and worst of humanity come together. It's like this digital Wild West, full of potential and peril, but it's real, man. It's out there, and it's not going away anytime soon. So be careful out there, folks. Stay informed, stay vigilant, and most importantly, stay safe.